Hey, financial advisors, it's Claire Aiken with Indigo Marketing Agency, and today I'm so excited to have Christopher Winn, the founder and the chief consultant of AdvisorAssist, which is a firm that helps advisors create and manage their compliance procedures in an efficient way. So welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So he's going to help us, anytime you're talking about the new testimonial rule, you want to also think of the compliance and the legal implications, make sure that you're treading carefully. And so that's why I've asked Chris to be on the program. But beyond that, his expertise in helping start our RIAs and also helping advisors to navigate compliance and make sure that they're doing work in a compliant fashion. I think Chris has a really good understanding of that you can't just say no all the time. It's so easy for advisors, legal teams to just say, don't do that, don't try that, because it's safer not to do anything. And I just watched a couple of webinars on this testimonial rule where the legal teams were saying, well, be really careful and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. And, maybe just don't do this until, more time goes by. But I think Chris understands that there are huge benefits to working with this rule in a compliant fashion, and that it doesn't make sense for advisors who want to grow their business to just not do any marketing. We need to do marketing to grow our businesses. So I think he sees both sides of the coin. And so that's why I'm really excited to have him on the program. So today we're going to talk about how to actually use testimonials in your marketing. There's been a lot of programs that have come out about the rule and what it means and compliance, but we're going to talk about what should advisors actually do to take advantage of this rule to grow your business. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So introducing Chris, and so he founded AdvisorAssist in 2006. Chris, why don't you walk us through your company, why you created it, and how you help advisors?
Thank you. Yeah, certainly. So we founded AdvisorAssist back in 2006 with really the focus on helping more entrepreneurial advisors compete in the larger marketplace. We saw first in the wake of Sarbanes-Oxley in 2002, and then the implementation of the CCO rule in 2004, that there was really a need for practical guidance around compliance. And as you mentioned in the introduction there, many firms take a very strict approach to compliance where the answer starts with a no. And it just, you can't get in trouble if you don't ever do anything, but it's tough to build and grow a business if you don't have structure for growth. So we really took a unique approach at this with an alignment of the combination of securities laws, processes and workflows, technology, and really all the building blocks of running a world-class firm, and bring those together as kind of an aligned group of core principles for a firm to help them, build, grow, and protect their firm.
That's awesome. And yeah, obviously deep experience in this industry. He's helped set up 1,700 advisory firms. And so tons of experience, tons of expertise here. And so he's going to help us kind of navigate this new rule. So we'll go a little bit through what AdvisorAssist do. So first of all, ongoing advertising review for those kind of advisors who don't have their own compliance team. And I always recommend that for the advisors that we work with. If you're an RIA, you can act as your chief compliance officer, but I really recommend outsourcing that to somebody who can just kind of double check and get a second set of eyes on everything that you're doing. So walk us through what you do for most of your clients.
Sure. Well, on the front end, we help with the strategic design, build, launch, and transition into a registered investment advisor. So stated differently, and often we get the question or the statement that some of work with or their existing firm mentions the millions of dollars they spend on compliance. It's important for most advisors to recognize that while there may be similar rules, they're building for a common denominator of, 1, 5, 10, 20, 30, or 50 people, not 14, 15,000. So that's one of the things that really makes, for instance, better defined rules and workflows more powerful, because you're not trying to figure out the most restrictive common denominator across 15,000.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point.
I was going to say to add, and then from an ongoing perspective, you have many of the items here, but really the overall umbrella is a structured compliance program where we serve as an extension of the team and support the CCO and management of the firms with helping them navigate what we call their year-end compliance. So what do they need to do each week, each month, each quarter, each year to keep the firm audit ready as you have listed, but also to take the burden off of their shoulders and use our professionals and our technology gain leverage for those firms.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that's so fantastic to allow advisors to work with an independent, kind of more flexible entity that can really customize what you're delivering to what they need. And a lot of times that's why advisors start an RIA and want to go out and be completely independent, is they don't want to work with the confines of a broker-dealer's compliance department. And so outsourcing to Chris and partnering with his team is a great solution to have that, protection and that support without, having somebody tell you no for, across the board without even hearing what you want to do with your marketing or with your business. And so I think it's a really great model for advisors to think about. Great. And so I'll let Chris kind of walk us through what is the new testimonial rule. Give us kind of the nitty gritty and explain it. I know it's a 400-page rule, but explain it in, a couple of sentences for our advisors that haven't, done a deep dive on the topic yet.
Sure. Well, the most important aspects of the rule is what the SEC did here. The ability to use testimonials is one of the key highlights. But effectively, what they did was remove the delivery mechanism from the rule. And advertising as a whole has always had advertising and communications have always had three core principles. And the SEC now just took the mechanism out, whether it be social media, print, email, web, et cetera, and harmonized those by saying, advertisements and communications need to be truthful, they need to be accurate, and they cannot omit any material fact. And, those three core principles get you 95% of the way there with virtually every advertisement. And the last one is actually probably, in my opinion, the most important. So to illustrate, take an advisor that markets their performance, advertising that their performance is up 30% this year, failing to recognize the benchmark or the general market's up 35%, the regulators would look at that to say, well, that is a material omission that has made your marketing, inaccurate and misleading. So those are really the core principles. So the SEC has really opened the door to allow for the client experience to be brought into the equation. So historically, advisors were always trying to think of creative ways to do a nameless case study of a client scenario and cause and effect, which was technically there, but you couldn't say too much. You always, it had to be, impersonal. And now this allows for, truly the advocates of the advisor, especially in a referral-based business, of course, to sing the praises of their advisor. The other thing that it actually really helps to do is allow third-party solicitors and referral sources of all walks of life to have more flexibility to make a referral to the client. Now, it didn't change the rules around a paid solicitor. Those rules are still intact and have very defined parameters. But what it did allow for is, someone to, a client, a non-client, another professional to say, go to XYZ advisors. They're great. I use them. I think they're the best.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so it may not sound like a big deal to advisors, but it is a really big deal when it comes to marketing. And so at Indigo Marketing Agency, we do the marketing for hundreds of advisors each and every month. And part of that is SEO, social media, creating content, running their websites, doing their email marketing, and allowing us to get testimonials and to get reviews on some of these third-party sites and to do those client profiles and client stories on the advisor site is huge, because that's what consumers expect. And so this allows financial advisors to market like normal businesses and to give consumers and prospects what they're looking for when they're trying to make this buying decision. And so I really believe that, it's going to be a slow transition to advisors adopting this rule and actually using testimonials in their marketing. But the ones that do are going to be at a huge advantage for months or years before everyone else catches up. And so if you are an RIA and you're allowed to use this rule starting on May 4th, I would hit the ground running and do it in a responsible way to really set you apart from the competition. So huge opportunity. It's very exciting for us because we can finally do marketing in a way that people are looking for and that is actually compelling to prospects. So walk us through who is affected now at this kind of May 4th start date.
Sure. Well, there's a difference between the SEC and the state in that each state has the ability to create their own rules for state registrants that are either resident or have an office in their state or conduct business in that state. The rule was developed by the SEC and will be implemented by the SEC effective May 4th. Certain states have rules that are directly pegged to the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. So there's, an inherent automatic adoption. Other states have that as a baseline, but then overlay their own state regulations, and other states have, their autonomous regulations. So it's really important for the firm that's going to do this as a state registrant to confer with their compliance folks to ensure that they're properly following the rules in the states in which they're going to do such marketing.
Yeah. And so it's really important to check with your compliance department. If you're with a broker dealer, check with your compliance professional if you're an RIA, and just double check these things. And then that said, even when you do create this marketing material, whether you're working with us or somebody else or on your own, you want to make sure that this material goes through compliance before it goes on your website or before it's published anywhere online. And so, compliance, as always, is of utmost importance. And so you're going to want to make sure everything goes through compliance first, that it's archived once it goes out on social media, and that you have the proper disclosures covering you. And then I think, one thing you mentioned is talking about, if you were to talk about performance, you need to, include certain, references and context for that performance. That's one thing that we never recommend doing. First of all, it gets really dicey when it comes to compliance to talk about performance, but more importantly, clients and prospects don't care. They're not looking typically for, the best performing investments. They don't care about investments. They don't understand fees. What they care about is how you're going to help them reach their emotional goal. And so that's really what we focus on. We're not going to be talking about your, investment strategy or how your portfolio is performed or the fees you charge. We're just going to be telling the stories of the clients and how you aim to help clients reach their emotional goals.
Excellent. And I agree with that for the most part. The challenge with marketing performance is someone can always market better performance than you. Aside from the fact that it can be, misleading and inaccurate by various standards of the regulators. So we find most wealth managers don't market performance, they market outcome and effect and capabilities. And I use that actual performance example as a perfect illustration because it's so cut and dry, right? So it illustrates the rule best, even if most firms won't do that. And another example of the truthfulness, accuracy, and failure to omit material facts could be something as basic as who's on your team and who's listed on your website. So a great example that we see quite often is those that list a whole bunch of folks that are part of what I'll call their extended ecosystem on their website, which is fine as long as it's very clear that those folks are not employees or supervised persons of the business. So clear entitling and things of that nature. So, saying that you have a chief investment officer who happens to really be the chief investment officer of a turnkey asset management program that you happen to utilize is one of those potential omissions that the regulators are out there looking for. So if you're a team of one and you have a website that shows 25 people on it, the SEC is going to look at that and say, well, you need to be very clear that these people are not actually, employees of your firm.
Yeah. And I do see that one all the time. And it's just important to, be honest and represent yourself in a way that people are going to get an accurate portrayal of what is true and how you do business and what's really true about your firm, and not try to mislead people. So I think that's a great point. So when we talk about this change, I think it's been long overdue. It's been decades since there's been an update to this rule. And the way that advisors, or what used to be called brokers, have served clients has really changed. And so I think instead of the SEC being worried about, people touting unrealistic investment results, now they're worried about people making other promises and other things that happen with social media. But one of the things about this rule that really struck me is that I still don't think that the SEC gets it. The way that the rule goes into so much depth about paying people to give testimonials and having people that are actors or not clients give testimonials about you and paying them for their services. That's not how it works today. In social media marketing and just general, the review ecosystem of Google, people are happy to give their honest review of a restaurant or a firm or a car repair shop, because people want to be heard, they want to share their experience, and they do it for free and they do it honestly. And so having all of this, all these pages around how you can pay people and how you can disclose whether or not somebody's a client, I think the SEC is still kind of missing the mark of, we want advisors, actual clients, to give honest reviews with no compensation about their advisor. And they're more than willing to do that. So I think it's kind of an interesting point there. And so, with the new rule and the new change, here are kind of the core components of what we need to do with these testimonials. And so walk us through this.
Sure. Well, actually, as I mentioned before, those are the three tenets here. So truthfulness and accuracy, material facts that are not disclosed there. So it's all about transparency. It's all about accuracy. And no longer is it about the medium or mechanism of delivery. So historically, you had different rules for sending a letter versus sending an email versus a blog post versus social media. And, now it's all those rules have aligned together. So the first one, straightforward, cannot be untrue or misleading. Discussing the benefits without risks. Really what the SEC is looking for is that you're not just out there touting your winners and that you have fair and balanced aspects to this. And again, the easiest way to describe this is security recommendations, which again, we strongly discourage, and I'm sure you do as well. But it illustrates the point perfectly. Discussing an investment that worked out very well for the advisor's clients, but failing to mention those that didn't in the past, is one way of talking about things that aren't, is eliminating the balance in a discussion. So really what it brings most advisors back to is they should be talking about the skills, the outcome, the core competencies of the firm and how they do business. But the SEC still wants to make sure that we are talking about things that, that still have risk. So for instance, if an advisor uses alternative investments, that it's great. Talk about alternative investments, but you do have to mention, for instance, concentration and liquidity risk if they're present in what you're marketing and advertising. So those are some of the key things that need to be included there.
Yeah. I think that's great. And so for the disclosures, these are kind of the required disclosures. Some of them apply, some of them don't, for the way that we will talk about how to get testimonials in your marketing. But whether the promoter is a client or not, and the promoter is the person who's giving the testimonial or the review, if they were paid, if they have any conflicts of interest, and the material terms of any compensation. So you couldn't compensate them with free fees for a year or anything that has material value without disclosing that. And so I think advisors are pretty familiar with this because this has been in the rules before about, non-cash compensation and things like that. But walk us through kind of your take on these disclosures.
Sure. I mean, really the key thing that the SEC is trying to get at here is to create the delineation between a client referral and someone who's acting as a solicitor. So while the challenge is, of course, you had mentioned earlier, about the SEC not getting it. And while I agree completely, I think one of the challenges they have is they have to build the rules for the most egregious, potential misuse of the rule. So not what most people will do, but the 1 in 1,000 might do, and that they have to protect people from that. So that's really where a lot of these stem from. Is there a conflict of interest present? Almost everything we do is a conflict of interest in life. It's interesting that word choice is always in everything. And as a compliance person, I find it interesting. So just even the mere suggestion that a client continue to work with an advisor is technically a conflict of interest, right? It's so, at what point, have you, educated the client enough that they could just go do it on their own? Well, very few advisors are going to say, hey, I no longer want your assets under management. You've been my client for 10 years, but you kind of get what we do now. Just go do it on your own. It's not inherent in what we do, and nor should it be, right? But the key thing with determining, is someone a client, is they're trying to really just ascertain, is this a real experience? Is everything that's in the testimonial, true and balanced? And so if it's a paid promoter that doesn't really have the experience that they're talking about, well, then that needs to, it needs to take a different lens and potentially different disclosure around it. Whereas the Smith family that truly was helped through a transfer of wealth in a complex situation and wants to tell their story about how great their advisor is, well, that's really important, because knowing that it was a client that did actually have this experience in the way that it's being portrayed gets back to that truthfulness and accuracy aspect.
Yeah. And
now,
so,
of course, I'm sorry, the last thing is really just the compensation, and really just, is it one-time compensation, or was there reliance on the compensation? So there's a big difference between a thank you and someone who's doing this with the expectation of payment.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think those are all important distinctions. For our purposes, they're all going to be current clients. They're all going to be non-paid, but you still have to disclose that. So wherever these are on your website, we still need those disclosures included on that page. And so walk us through some of the mistakes that you've seen, or that you anticipate seeing as advisors kind of take on this rule and start to use these testimonials.
Well, I guess the first thing is not having a defined process and associated policies and procedures. So we certainly want advisors to take advantage of it and jump right in, but they need to start with, what is the flow of information? What are they going to generally say? What are they not going to say? What are the guardrails, and how are we going to track this and prove that we're doing a good job? So that may, depending on the frequency and the structure of the firm, that may necessitate archiving and monitoring technology. If the firm is, there isn't a mandate for that for pure registered investment advisors. There is for those that have a FINRA association. But all firms are required to have true and accurate books and records that cover all communications and documents created and used in the business. So there's a requirement of supervision either way. But getting that foundation right is really important. The other real important thing is really making sure that you have what I like to call is a disclosures library. A lot of these communications will tend to take a common theme over time. And often what we see is peaks and valleys of effectiveness with advisor communications and marketing. So in certain periods, they're on top of it, and they have all the right disclosure, and they had ample time to get compliance review and things out the door. And then at other times, whether it's their busy time of year or just the life gets in the way of things here. We see certain times where things make it through without the baseline of good disclosure that's out there. So I think one of the key things is advisors should always start their communication that they're planning with the disclosure there, right? Don't just wait for the compliance people to add the disclosure at the end, or convince yourself that you're going to, add it right before you send it out the door, because that sometimes doesn't happen or doesn't make the cut.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a really important distinction. And it's important to always have your disclosure library on each piece of content that goes out for you and on all of your social profiles. And we're talking about Google My Business today. It's important to have a link to your disclosure page on your Google My Business profile. So one of the mistakes that I think we're going to see and that I worry for advisors about is this issue of only asking happy clients for a review. And it goes back to, not touting positive investment results without, explaining the negative ones too. It isn't fair or balanced to only ask your happiest clients to leave a review. So you do need to ask all of your clients in the same way. And you need to have a record of that. And so that's something we're doing for our clients, is giving the opportunity for any of the people in their network to sign up to leave a review or to leave a review directly. And then the people that we are helping to post the reviews are, there are specific clients that have responded to that call. And so everybody gets the same opportunity. So of course, not asking all clients, not just happy clients, not discussing performance, review and stories, not results, and including those disclosures. I think these are kind of the keys to working with us in a compliant fashion. And then of course, sending anything out through compliance before it goes out.
Sure. To add to that,
let's talk about, your recommendation, which I love.
I was going to say, to add to that real quick, a quick distinction or review of profiles to determine whether it's a business profile versus personal. So if an individual is utilizing their personal profiles, they're most likely making that now a covered and firm account. So if you're trying to keep, for instance, a personal Facebook personal with your pictures of your children and your puppy, then you have to think about that and make sure that you structure it in a way that you're either willing to have that be archived and reviewed, or only do this through a business account. So those things are important as well.
Yeah. And I always recommend, we do marketing on behalf of advisors through their LinkedIn company page, their LinkedIn professional profile, their Facebook business page, but not their Facebook personal profile. So just kind of keeping those separate and making sure you don't talk about any business or share business stuff on your personal page. I think that aligns with how advisors want to use their personal Facebook anyway. This was one idea, Chris, that you shared with me that I love, of having a featured single page of your library of disclosures on your site that you can refer to from any social media site. So even Twitter, where you have very small limit on your character account, you could still refer everybody back to your disclosures page on your site where you list every single possible disclosure. So walk us through this idea and how it can work for advisors.
Sure. And again, there's some differences between SEC registered firms and FINRA members with respect to this. But for a registered investment advisor that's not marketing their website under the FINRA compliance rules and regulations, you have really the ability to create a single page of disclosures. And really think of it this way: there's been a decades-long struggle between adding more to a disclosure versus trimming a disclosure. And like the compromise has always been, well, let's use broken English. Let's take out verbs and let's take out punctuation and try to see if we can compress, 3 pages into a paragraph. And the end result is, well, you're meeting the regulations. Like, no one can actually read it anyway. You end up getting into situations where the font is not of a reasonable size and it's taking up more of your content than is appropriate. So what we like to do is to have a very robust single page of disclosures on your website that's accessible from anywhere on your website. So for instance, a link on the footer of your website, and then on that disclosures page, have very well organized and well articulated sentences that describe all the important things that one would need to know. So a section for email disclosures, a section for limitation of liability and risk, a section for use of social media, et cetera. There's a number of those that they would include in there. And if you think of things like your email, most of us are, do a lot of emails from our mobile devices. So if you have an email disclosure that's, 4 paragraphs long at the bottom of your email, you almost can't read the message half the time because you have so much back and forth with the disclosure adding in there. Social media sites, there's very little room to include disclosures and get the message out. So what there's the opportunity to do is to have a very conspicuous link to say, visit our website for important disclosures, and zero right in on the things that a client needs to know. So if in your email, if you don't accept trade instructions via email, well, lay that all out in your disclosures. Of course, you want to educate your client otherwise, but this is also one way to make sure you have everything in there without having a disclosure that's unreadable.
Right. And I think that's so important when we talk about, moving towards Google My Business and having reviews on there, is you still want to be able to link to your disclosures so that people understand that any reviews on Google may not be representative, and all advice is individualized, all client circumstances are unique, examples aren't meant to guarantee results. All of these things are important to say. However, because we can't say them directly on some of these social channels, I think this is a great way to address that need. So let's talk a little bit about, the meat and potatoes of this presentation, which is getting reviews and actually having reviews to help you get more business. And so I'll talk about why reviews are important. I think a lot of advisors don't understand that there's 2 reasons that reviews on Google are important. The first is the review itself. So somebody Googles your firm name, and we know that 9 out of 10 people who are referred to you will type your name or your firm name into Google and see what comes up. What's going to come up at the top of Google is Google's own algorithm puts Google My Business at the top. So the reviews there are important because that referral now sees that you have 5-star reviews, and they, are more likely to go through your site and consider doing business with you. The other thing is that having a lot of Google reviews actually gets you to show up higher in search results. So this is really cool because when you have recent reviews and when you have a high number of reviews, when someone Googles for financial advisor near me, your profile will come up higher than other people that have fewer reviews. So it's a way to actually affect the SEO algorithm to get more traffic to your website and more exposure online, which is what advisors are really looking to do from a marketing perspective, is get more referrals and get in front of new people they don't already know. So it's really important for both of these kind of angles that we're going for, is having a lot of reviews on Google. And so when we're thinking about gathering reviews and testimonials, there's 3 types in a perfect world that advisors would have. The first is 5-star reviews on Google My Business and Facebook. The second is testimonials on your website. So actual client stories of clients saying, Greg helped me through a really hard time when my husband was going through an illness and we were financially unstable, and he was able to help us get through that and plan for the future. And now we're happy again and everything is great. These stories with pictures of how you actually help the people that you're helping every day. And then the third thing is basically case studies of how you help people. So these are the case studies that you have seen advisors do in the past, but sometimes it was a little, some advisors were okay on compliance, some were not. These are the profiles of how we help an Intel executive to maximize his benefits package. And this is where we may actually have some numbers and some, calculations within the article, but it's a whole different type of thing than Linda saying, I've been working with Tom for 30 years and he's always been responsive and I love the way his team takes care of my family. This is an actual kind of deeper dive white paper or a case study or a client profile. So I think it's important to have all 3 of these different types of reviews through your marketing. And so I want to just walk you through, if advisors out there are thinking about just getting Google reviews, we've been actually trying this for several months, almost a year. We've been piloting this program, and it's not that easy to get people to leave good reviews. So this is what I would consider a good review, which means it's better than nothing, right? So it's bad if somebody goes to your Google page or Googles you and there's nothing, there's no reviews. It's like maybe you don't have any clients, maybe you don't exist. Having one 5-star review is better than nothing, but this person reviewed this advisor with 5 stars and didn't leave one word. He just 5 stars, that's it. And so, yeah, it's better than nothing, but it's really not going to help you from a marketing standpoint. Here's another example of a review. So this person said, great financial advisor. And so, that was all they could come up with to say about this advisor. It just doesn't engender a lot of trust or a lot of emotional benefits, just great financial advisor. Well, compared to what? What did they help you do? It just leaves so much room for improvement here. And so when you go about getting reviews, you can only have one Google review per client. So if a client has a Google account, they can only review you one time. And so it's important to do this intentionally and thoughtfully to get the best outcome when you ask your clients for a review. So this is an example of what I consider a great review. And I'll talk about why I think it's so important to go through this process of getting great reviews and what that means. So this person actually worked with us. So what we do when we get reviews for our advisors' clients is we have a phone call with them, we talk to them, and we interview them about their experience, and we help them to articulate in their own words why they love working with the advisor. And then we actually help them write the review so that we know it's hitting on the key points of what prospects care about. So this person said, Greg provides us with excellent service that is always rooted in honest, educated advice. His knowledge and experience has been able to lower our investment risk and avoid losses while creating a plan that allowed my wife and me to retire on time. We continue to stay the plan and trust that Greg will be alongside the whole time. And so another great review that is talking about the things that clients and prospects care about is, we've been with Greg for over 25 years, and we've experienced some of the most dramatic market changes in history. 2 things have remained consistent: Greg's loyalty and his trustworthiness. He's committed to do the best with the risk level we're comfortable with during our retirement life stage. And so this is great. People reading it really get more of a sense of, wow, these people have worked with this advisor, not just for a few months or a few years, but 25 years throughout, huge life changes and market changes. And he's been with them and he's a constant. This gives us so much more than that kind of 5-star great advisor remark. So these are the types of reviews that we're really going for. Let's talk about how many reviews you need to become significant on Google. So first of all, data shows that the average customer needs to read about 10 reviews before they trust a business. So that's how many reviews we really expect. If you see a restaurant that has less than 10 reviews, you think, maybe some people loved it. Maybe these are friends of the restaurant owner, but do you really want to spend your Friday evening there? And so it's important to get at least 10 reviews if you can. Google My Business actually requires a minimum of 5 reviews before they give you a star rating. So you can have 4 reviews, but you won't show up as rated with an actual star rating until you have at least 5 for their algorithm to calculate your star review. And then after you have 8 or more, the site will start to see a growth in people they're sending you through organic searches. So once you have 8 or more reviews, once people are typing in financial advisor near me, you're going to come up higher once you kind of hit that limit. And so it's not that easy to get a lot of reviews. Basically, you can ask all of your clients and only a small subset of them will take the time to do a review. And so these are the metrics that we've come up with when working with our advisor clients, is if you ask 6 people, you get about 4 people that will actually give you a review, in that they will schedule a phone call or they'll email, type out a review for you. But only 2 of those people will actually post to Google. And some things happen, maybe they don't have a Google account. We run into people that don't know how to cut and paste. We run into people that just don't understand how to log into their Google account and access the review setting. So there's some technical proficiencies that have to happen for them to be able to post. And they have to have time and they have to respond to emails. So of 6 clients, 2 people will post to Google. So to get 5 Google reviews, you need to ask at least 15 clients. And so that's important to just kind of get to this minimum threshold that we're looking for. And so first of all, who should you ask? And so I recommend asking every single person on your email list or in your network. So not just your happiest clients, because we need to provide fair and balanced representation of your business, but also, it's fine if you ask everybody on your list by email. So if you're a client of ours, we will send out an email for you saying, please review us on Google. And that way we're taking care of asking every single person in your business. But if you have clients that are more responsive that you know will do you a favor and actually post the review, it's fine to follow up and say, hey, did you see the email I sent out? We're really working on getting more Google reviews. We'd love it if you would leave one for us. And then make sure that they're tech savvy. So, we've taken a lot of time to get reviews from clients that don't have a Google account, don't have a Facebook account, or don't know how to cut and paste. And that's really not helpful for us. Unfortunately, we can't get the clients to use those reviews. And so, tech savvy clients it's going to be a lot easier for them to actually post the reviews for you. This is one point that I want to make for advisors out there when we talk about not touting performance, we talk about what should these reviews address. This is a study that we did of the advisors that we work with and top advisors in the US. And through sampling their websites, we actually made word clouds of what advisors say about themselves. And then what we did is we looked at all the reviews out there that people are writing about top advisors. What words do the clients say about why they chose that advisor? And it's very interesting to me that these are very different. What clients are talking about and what advisors are talking about are totally different words. So why people choose an advisor is this framework comes from Dimensional Fund Advisors, Apollo Lupesco. And so he works through their data, what they found that people choose an advisor. So there's kind of these 4 C's: competence, which is their credentials, their experience, their education; coaching, which is how they help clients to be successful. They educate them, they help manage stress, they help them not get out of the market at the wrong time, et cetera. Convenience. So this is kind of the time saving, the customer service, giving you a holistic view of maybe your tax planning and your financial planning, et cetera. And then continuity. So making sure that if something happens to me, my financial plan continues for my children, my spouse, philanthropy, legacy, kids, et cetera. So these 4 C's go into providing somebody with a feeling of peace of mind. That is the goal. And that is why most people choose to work with financial advisors, to help get them closer to peace of mind about their financial plan. So what's interesting is this is what advisors think their clients care about. And this is what is on the websites of top advisors. So the main words are portfolio, investing, goals, discipline, financial management. These are a lot of the characteristics that advisors themselves think about, but it's not necessarily what clients are looking for. This is what clients say about why they chose an advisor. And so trust, honesty, relationship, responsiveness, transparency, knowledge, education, experience. So I think it's just interesting to understand that what clients are looking for is not necessarily what we think. And then when you're asking people to do reviews, why not ask them to touch on these important points that other prospects and other clients might be thinking about? And so that's what we do when we help advisors get reviews, is we really try to focus on these concepts that clients truly care about. So these are the questions that we ask to help reviewers touch on these key points. So what do you really do? What makes you different? Who should hire you? And what benefit do they get from hiring you? So put another way, this is what we're doing when we're asking your clients to do a review for you, is we're focusing on what clients actually care about. We're asking questions to guide the conversation and help them articulate why they chose you, what they think makes you different, the benefits they've gotten from working with you, and then actually writing in a professional way with an editor and a proofreader so that there's not grammatical issues or kind of embarrassing mistakes, and then asking your client to post that review for you. So asking them to post from their Google account this review that is thoughtful and articulates the things that clients actually care about and that prospects care about. So this is the review process that we use. So first of all, we send out an email on your behalf asking everybody to leave a review. They can either email us with their review, answering the questions that we typically ask, or they can schedule a quick 15-minute phone call where we'll interview them and type out the notes to their review. We send a appointment reminder 24 hours before the call with all of the questions that we'll go through. We interview your clients directly. We write, edit, proofread the review, and then we send it to them and ask them to post it. And then once they have approved it, we actually share it on your website and on social media. And so you can have a page on your site now that says, what are clients saying about working with us, that features all of the reviews that people have listed for you. So these are the questions that we go through in our interviews of your clients to help get these reviews. So when did you decide to seek the help of a financial advisor? And for most of the clients of our advisors, it's, probably decades ago. And this process is really fun for us. I love to be on these calls because I love to hear from your clients of what they think makes you different and how you've helped them. And there's amazing stories that we've uncovered through this process. So why did you choose to work with your advisor instead of somebody else? A lot of your clients probably never thought of this. Maybe they met you 25 years ago and they don't really remember why they chose you, but they like you and they've been with you ever since. So sometimes there's not a lot here, but sometimes there is. What is the most important problem the advisor has helped them solve? Have you recommended somebody to your advisor in the past? So have you referred to your advisor in the past? And if so, what do you say? Why do you say, hey, you should work with Greg? Is it that he's, honest or trustworthy, or is it that he can help you with your problem? It's really enlightening for your marketing to understand what people are saying about you when they're referring other people to you. What is the most important benefit you get from working with the advisor? And what do you like best about your advisor? And this is just really cool for the advisors to hear the results and all of the notes we take from these questions, because sometimes it can be a little bit of a thankless job helping people every day with their financial plan. A lot of times you get, phone calls when people are upset or, when they're going through a hard time. You don't necessarily hear the good parts or, what they like best about you. And so this can be a very, positive process for the advisor to go through. And then this is how we ask your clients to post their reviews. So we say, hey, Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about your partnership with George Advisor. It's wonderful to hear positive feedback. With recent changes to the SEC marketing regulations, advisors will be able to feature client testimonials on their website. During this call, we captured our notes and we've drafted a testimonial for you that you can edit and approve. Feel free to make any edits, rewrite completely, or approve as is. Copy and paste this, your approved testimonial, into their Google My Business page at the link below. And then we link to a link that goes directly to the box that they put their text into. So they don't need to navigate. They don't need to find Google My Business. They click the link and a box opens up where they can hit submit. And so it could not be easier for them. That said, only about half of them are actually going to do this. And then one thing that we do is, because a lot of the times when we're interviewing clients, we're doing Zoom calls that we can record just like this one, we can actually get video testimonials for you to use on your site. So as we're interviewing your clients and they're saying, I met Greg 30 years ago when I was working at a hospital and he helped me with a TSA. And then, now he helps my kids with their college planning for their grandkids. And they're saying all these nice things about you and your team. We're capturing that on video, and we can use our video editor to create a beautiful testimonial video that we could then run through compliance and use on your site of what are clients saying about working with us. And it could feature, 3 of your clients and different snippets of the beautiful things that they say about you. So this is a really, really cool service that we're offering to all of our existing clients. And it's very powerful. If you're able to get a video testimonial, it is one of the biggest game changers for advisors in their marketing. People want to understand people's experience of working with you, and video tells the story so much more powerfully than text ever can. And so this is a great option for the advisors out there. So this is just the process of how we do that. And so, if you're interested in doing that, please get in touch with us, because I think we make it as easy as we can, at least for the advisor, to interview their clients. You don't have to be involved. You just have to introduce your client to our team, and we do it all in less than 15 minutes of their time. And then once you have these reviews and these testimonials, these are some examples of how we use them in your marketing. And so it's an ongoing process for us. First of all, they're on Google My Business and on Facebook because your clients have posted them there, but then we want to use them on your site through your marketing. So it could be the client stories or the client profiles that we create. So every time we interview an advisor's client, we see if there's something deeper, if there's a deeper story there. And these are 2 examples of stories that started as a 15-minute phone call just to get a Google review that we really developed into a full feature for that advisor. So this is a client profile of, could your financial plan handle a single income during a major career change, and a story of how one advisor really help their clients to do that so that one of their clients could actually start their own business. a client profile of who do you turn to when you've lost it all. And so this was a great story about one family that worked with an advisor who really went through tremendous financial hardship, and the advisor was able to help them weather that storm. And so whenever we get a compelling story, we want to build it out into a greater client profile to share on your website, through your email, and across your social media. Now that you've kind of understood what testimonials can do for you and how we can use them in your marketing and the rules that you should be aware of, what should advisors do now? And so I think the first thing is talk to your compliance officer or your compliance department and see where they are in the process. If you're with a large broker dealer, right now it's probably a wait and see approach. You probably can't do much as far as publishing testimonials now, but you could still get started. This process takes a lot of time. We need to, first of all, ask all of your clients. We need to identify the best clients that we're going to kind of pursue getting reviews from. We need to start gathering the reviews. It takes time for them to schedule a phone call. It takes time for us to write the reviews once we talk to them, to get them to edit it, to get them to post it, to get compliance approval. This whole process is at least 30 to 60 days before you're going to have reviews live on your website or going out through your marketing. And then of course, you're going to want to talk to your team to update your records and your compliance process and all of your archiving of what you're doing in this process. And so I think that's really important. Chris, do you have any advice for advisors on what they should be thinking about now as the rule is kind of taking effect? Where do they start?
Sure. Well, most important to start with the game plan and make sure that not only the delivery mechanism is in place, but the compliance workflows. So who will submit and when the various materials, making sure if new social sites or new approaches are there, that the ADV is updated accordingly to list those social sites. And as we discussed earlier, having a retention and a retention mechanism and a review mechanism in place. So those are the most important things. I think you articulated it well to say, at least initially, make sure that you have some lead time to get the initial ones reviewed with compliance. Again, compliance shouldn't be the preventing the business. The goal of involving compliance early is to try to set a really good baseline to have a compliant business, not have compliance tell you and try to squash the goals of what you're doing from a business perspective, but to figure out what to say, how to say it, and how not to say things and phrase them so that we can make sure we don't trip over any other rules in the process here.
Yeah, absolutely. They're supposed to be there to help you avoid making any mistakes, which I think is, what Chris and his firm do really well. So how to learn more about Chris and AdvisorAssist. So if you're looking to grow a world-class firm, if you're interested in empowering your people with policies and procedures, you want to teach and train people to manage risk, and get into the how and why of setting up your compliance, whether you're going to be starting a new RIA or whether you already have one or you need some support here, you can actually schedule a 30-minute phone call with Chris. So go to advisораssist.com/contact us/request consultation. I will link that below so you can get in touch with him. And he's been really generous with answering advisors' questions and helping them understand how any rules apply to their specific situation. If you do want to get started with Indigo, if you're a current client, you can just let us know that you're ready to get started with our review process, and we will start running that process for you. Or if you're not a current client, we would love to talk to you. You can go to Indigo Marketing Agency/get started, and we can do our free marketing consult call with you, where we'll answer questions, talk about what you're doing well from a marketing perspective, and give you some ideas for how you can easily improve your marketing, whether you work with us or not. So sign up for that call below. And thank you, Chris, so much for being a part of this. I know your insights are really valuable to the advisors listening, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.